Good afternoon. I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. In exactly a week, families with graduating high school seniors will begin what is called the financial aid process. While it's not the easiest process to go through, we are here today to give you some tips on how to better get through it. My name is Sarah Landrum, and during today's webinar, Understanding the Financial Aid Process, we're going to talk about things like why filling out the free application for federal student aid is so important, what types of financial aid are generated through the application, and also we're going to talk about scholarship tips and how you should apply for them. And before we actually get started today, we wanted to let you know that your lines have been muted. We are going to send out a copy of the recorded version of the webinar along with the presentation so you can refer back to it if you have any questions. So let's go ahead and start off with a poll question today. And we have two. We kind of want to get to know you and understand how much you know about the financial aid process already. So the first question is, it's true or false, my parents make too much money, so I will not qualify for student aid. True or false? I'll give you a couple of seconds to make your choice. And then the second question is, only students with good grades get financial aid. True or false? Okay, now everybody has made their selections, and I'm not going to tell you the answers now, but as we go through the presentation, you will be able to learn the answers to both of these questions. You have heard stories about students who have graduated with no student loan debt. It is possible, but it's not probable. If you follow these steps in the order that we tell you to today, you or your student should graduate college with the least amount of student loan debt possible. And the only way to access most financial aid is by completing the free application for federal student aid, otherwise known as the FAFSA. And the types of money that are generated through filling out the application is scholarships and grants. And I'm going to stop here for just a moment because I always want to encourage everyone out there who's listening to us to find as free money as possible when paying for a college education. Free money is a gift. You never have to pay it back. And then there's also federal work-study programs, and there's borrowed money. And we're going to talk about all of these things in detail today. Let's start by talking about the FAFSA process, because this is kind of where it all begins. So beginning January the 1st of 2015, the free application for federal student aid will open for the 2015-2016 school year. First-time users will apply for a PIN, and you can start doing that in November. So if you haven't done it yet, I do encourage you to do this as soon as possible. And the student as well as the parent will need a PIN. The reason you need one for the student and the parents for a couple of different reasons. Number one, it is your electronic signature. So anytime you get into the application, you fill out information, and then you log out of the application by putting in that PIN that says that you have put in all the information in the application to the best of your knowledge. And also, too, because the student has been a minor for the last 18 years, they have been solely dependent on their parent. And that's how financial aid is determined. It's based on the family's worth. So, student, you will have to enter in your information, and parent, you will also have to enter in your information. And then first-time users will fill out what is called the FAFSA worksheet. It's not something you're going to turn in with the application. It's really an educational tool. It helps you to understand what you're going to be asked for in the application, what kind of documents you're going to have available, because there's a lot of detailed information that you will need to put in. And then you're going to submit the FAFSA online, and we do recommend that you submit it online, and that's for a couple of different reasons. Of course, you get your results quicker, But also, too, not all financial aid has an unlimited supply. Some of it can run out in the school year, so as soon as you can fill out the free application for federal student aid, you will want to do that as soon as possible so you can qualify for as much aid as you possibly can. And also, too, if you do it by mail, it takes a lot longer. So, again, we do recommend that you submit it online. And I'm going to go to the website now, the FAFSA website. Anytime we give you websites to go to here at DCCU, we want to make sure you're on the correct website. So we want to show that to you. Make sure you're not going to a website that's not legitimate and they're asking for personal information. So let's click here. And it should open to the FAFSA.ed.gov. And then once we get there, this is what the home page looks like. And then we talked about applying for a PIN. There is a link that will take you to the PIN site. So if you just click here, and then once the page comes up, you'll see here, Apply Now. And then once you click on Apply Now, it's going to ask you for some information, and then you'll receive your PIN electronically, so you'll get that through email. And then also, too, to give you an idea of what that worksheet's going to look like, if we go back to the home page where we started, there's a search bar, and if you just type in FAFSA worksheet, and just click on the search. And it looks like we might be having some technical difficulties, so let's go back again and see if we can get that to open so you know what it looks like. There it goes. And it's a link here, and it says the 2014-2015 worksheet. It could be that one has not been updated for 2015-2016 because maybe some of, or maybe the information didn't change from year to year. But this will give you a really good idea of the information that you're going to be asked. So you'll know exactly how to answer the questions, what kind of documents you're going to need in front of you. If you just kind of move the page up, you'll see the information that's there. And then also, too, you must apply for financial aid annually. Because family situations change, income can go up, income can go down, and dependent student can become an independent student while still in college. So you do have to apply annually. I recommend that this is a date that you put on your calendar every year, January the 1st, so you know that you have to fill that out. And then once you submit the application online, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks. It takes about 4 to 6 weeks. Again, we talked about the deadline for financial aid being timely. So, of course, you can see that it takes a little bit longer if you decide to mail it in. And then also, too, once you get your results back, you're going to get what is called a student aid report, or a SAR. Basically, what this does is it summarizes the information that you have filled out on the FAFSA. One of the things that I want to tell you is that when you fill the FAFSA out, that you want to make sure that when you get this student aid report back, what you put on the application, make sure all the information is correct, because it's going to determine how much financial aid you get, and if something wasn't correct, it could change that amount. And also, too, it provides what is called an expected family contribution, or an EFC. This is just an estimate, because the school hasn't determined what kind of awards they're going to give to your student. So again, it's an estimate. It just says this is what, based on your information that you put in the FAFSA, this is the expected amount that your family can contribute to a college education. But again, it's an estimate. Also, too, when you fill out the 2015-2016 FAFSA, you're going to want to use your 2014 tax information. and most people don't have their taxes done early in the year. So you can use your 2013 tax information, but once you get your 2014 taxes done, you want to make sure you go back in and you make any changes once you get your student aid report, because again, it can affect that financial aid that you're going to get. And then also all the schools that you listed on the FAFSA, and I believe it's up to 10 different schools that you can list, they will receive what is called an ISIR, which is an Individual Student Information Report, and they usually get that about 10 to 14 days after the FAFSA is submitted. It summarizes the information that you filled out on the application, so again, this is important for you to make sure the information is correct. And then also, too, as I stated before, all schools will listed on the FAFSA will receive this. So if for some reason now you're interested in a school that you might not have been interested in when you filled out the application, it's up to you to get with the financial aid department at that particular school so they'll know that you're now interested in going and they can get your FAFSA information. And this is the time I kind of like to stop here and talk to students and talk to parents a little bit more in detail about the financial aid office at the particular college that you or your student is going to be going to, because that is the person that you want to develop a very close relationship with. You want to know their phone number, their email address, where their office is, because they are experts in financial aid, and they can help you, they can assist you, they can guide you through the whole process. So make that connection and make that relationship with them throughout the whole time that you're in college, and they'll be able to provide you with the resources that you need. And then the school uses the information coupled with the application to determine the student's financial need, and they create what is called an award letter. And usually award letters start coming out late April, more likely in May, and this is what will tell you or your student what type of financial aid award packet that you received from this particular school. So it's important, if you've applied with several different schools, to lay out the award packages and see maybe one school gave you a little bit more financial aid than maybe another school, or they've given you some scholarships that maybe another school didn't. So it's that this is the time for you to look at them and to see what kind of awards that you're receiving, and this will help you hopefully better make your decision on what college that you may attend based on the award packet. And also, too, you want to review and decide which awards to accept. And an example of this would be maybe when you were filling out the FAFSA, you said, I would like to work during school, so I want a work-study program that'll help me pay for my college education. And then you said, oh, later on, well, I don't know if I'll be able to do that my freshman year because I'm going to have such a heavy workload, and you decide I can't really work during school. You would let this particular school who sent you that award tell them that you're no longer interested in it. That way they can offer it to another student who may be in need of a work-study program. And we talked earlier about that process that you go through to pay for a college education in the order that you need to go through it. And this is where it all begins. And we talked about early on free money, finding as much free money as you possibly can. That's the first step to what we call the value-based approach. And when you fill out the FAFSA, you are considered for federal grants, and the federal grants can range anywhere from $100 to $5,500. And many grants are based on financial need, and just some of the examples are federal Pell Grant, and then there's also the Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. Both of these are based on financial need, but the difference between the two are the federal Pell Grant. When a school participates in this program, they are able to award every student at that school who qualifies for the federal Pell Grant. Now with the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, schools who participate with this particular grant, they only receive a certain amount of money for that particular school year, and then once it's used up, they won't receive any more from the Department of Education until the next school year. So this is a prime example of, if you qualify for this, you want to fill out the FAFSA as soon as you possibly can because of that limited supply. And then also there's what is called a TEACH grant, and this grant is offered to students who are going to pursue a career in teaching. There's some stipulations that are applied to the TEACH grant, and some of the stipulations are if you sign the contract with the Department of Education, you say you are going to teach for a certain number of years in either a high needs area or maybe in a low-income area, a school that's located in a low-income area, but you have to teach for that period of time. And if you fail to meet the requirements for the TEACH grant, then it's turned into a direct loan, and then you have to actually pay this back. Otherwise, if you meet what those obligations are with that particular grant, you don't. But if you don't meet the obligations, then it would be turned into a direct loan from the government, and then you have to pay that back in the form of a loan, and you have to pay interest from the time the grant was given to you. So this is another example of when you get your award letter and you thought this was what you were going to do, and you then changed your mind. You want to make sure that you don't accept something that you don't feel like you can meet those obligations. And I'm going to take you now to the student aid website, because there are a lot of grants, a lot of ways to prepare for college, or how to repay your loans that is on this particular website. I'm going to take you here. It is run by the Department of Education, and it's just a wealth of knowledge. You can see the types of aid that are available. You can even find out some other resources, how to apply for aid, how to repay your loans once you go back into repayment. But it's just a really good website for you to go to and get that information so you can be better prepared for you or your student when they go to college. And then also, too, when you fill out the FAFSA, there are scholarships and grants that you can apply for. They can be at a state level, or they can also be at a school level. Amounts can vary. They could be based on need or merit. They could also be based on a variety of reasons like academic, sports, extracurricular activities. But again, check with the financial aid office, because most colleges who have scholarships that they offer to their students or grants that they offer to their students, you still need to fill out that free application for federal student aid to be thought of for one of them. And then also, too, I'd like to kind of talk about this a little bit more in detail, because I think this is where students sometimes don't do their homework. A lot of times students don't realize there are a lot of scholarships locally that are offered that they can apply for and hopefully win. But these are the scholarships that are not offered through the free application for federal student aid. Again, amounts can vary. You can begin applying as early as 11th grade. Most of the time it's in your 12th grade that you start applying, or your senior year that you start applying for scholarships. But sometimes there are programs that like to follow a student, not just through their senior year, but through some of their high school years. So some of them you can begin to apply as early as 11th grade. They can be based on need or merit, and they can also be based on a variety of reasons, as we said before. And then also, too, it is very important when you apply for scholarships that you do exactly what that particular program is asking you to do, because you want to have the best chances that you can in order to receive free money through scholarships. And here are just some tips to help you better apply for scholarships. And first of all, we always say follow instructions. If the requirements are that you write a 750 to 1,000-word essay, then do that. And make sure that if you have to have it in by a certain deadline, different things like that. Make sure you follow instructions. If something is not clear, maybe you just don't understand the scholarship requirements, call whoever's offering that scholarship and just follow up with them, because it is not unusual for more than 50% of scholarships to be thrown out because students simply did not follow the instructions. And also, too, reference letters. Sometimes scholarship programs will ask you to submit a letter of reference. Well, of course, there's a few steps that you want to take when you're asking for a reference letter. Number one, make sure you ask someone who really does think highly of you, who really does like you, to write you a letter of reference, and make sure that you give them plenty of time. Don't walk in one day and say, hey, can you write me a letter of reference? I need it by 4 o'clock today. Make sure you give them plenty of time so it can be well thought out and it can be well written. And also, to lead your reference letters, if you're going to maybe a favorite teacher and you ask her or him to write you that letter of reference, remind them of the things that you have helped them with. Like maybe that morning you walk into their classroom and you say, Ms. Smith, I need a letter of reference for a scholarship I'm applying for. Do you remember the time that I did XYZ? Or do you remember the time I did ABC? That way you're guiding it and you're getting the information in that reference letter that you actually want. And while it is important to have good grades to go to college, colleges are not always looking for just good grades, as well as scholarship programs. They're not just looking for students with good grades, they're looking for well-rounded students. So remember to include any kind of community involvement, any kind of charity work that you've done. If maybe you've held a job while you're in high school, if maybe you haven't worked at a part-time employer, but maybe you've been in a group and or maybe a organization or some type of club at school and you've held, like maybe you were the president or you're the secretary or something. Include any of those types of information in your scholarship application or even in your college education, because a well-rounded student is someone who is sought after by colleges and by community leaders offering scholarship programs. Also, when you're writing an essay, you want to put time, energy, and effort into it. And remember, a lot of scholarships will have some of the same requirements. So if you write one really good essay at your work, you might have to go back and change a little bit here to that particular scholarship program. But remember, it's your work, and if it's well written, then you won't have to put more time into it every time you apply for one, because you have one real good written essay. And then also, too, when we talk about scholarships or anything that involves money, we would recommend that you make sure that whatever scholarship program that you're applying for, that it is legitimate. If, for example, you've applied for a scholarship with a certain company and they're asking you to send them money, then you probably know that that's a scam. So we want you to be extremely careful. If you're unsure, take it to a trusted source, like maybe a teacher, maybe your guidance counselor. Bring it to us here at DCCU. We would be more than glad to look over it for you and just make sure that you are applying for legitimate scholarships. You want as much free money as possible, and you definitely don't want to pay any more money out than you have to. So be aware of scams. And I have supplied you with a list of scholarship search engines. The first one we're going to look at, and I think a lot of the guidance counselors at your schools will also recommend fastweb.com. I'm going to take you to this so you'll know what it looks like. And you see fastweb.com. and this is where you would click on to start your search. Now, it is going to ask you for some information, and it's probably going to take you about 20 minutes to a half an hour to fill out the application. But just think about it like this: 20 to 30 minutes of your time beats thousands of dollars that you would have to pay back if you don't apply for scholarships. And also, too, at MyDCCU.com, we offer a scholarship, and I'm going to take you here and let you look at our scholarship program. We've been offering it for the last 20 years, and we give $1,000 away to a graduating senior at each of the 19 high schools in our service area. So if you are listening locally, more than likely you do qualify for our scholarship. We also give one away to a student who attends a private school, is homeschooled, or is a DCCU member, but you live outside of our service area. And then we also offer one to an adult student who is continuing their education. So we do give away $21,000 in scholarships every year, and I highly encourage you to apply for the scholarship. It is going to be based on a 750 to 1,000 word essay, and I'm not going to read the questions, but this is the question here. When you go to the page, you'll see what that requirement is, and then we have over here the adult scholarship application or the student. And once you click on that, you'll be able to fill out the application and then also insert your essay into the application. And two, I like to tell students to look for scholarships locally. For example, maybe your parent works at an employer who offers a scholarship to their employees who have a senior graduating from high school. There are Rotary clubs, different organizations like that. I highly recommend that you work with your guidance department. They usually will get scholarship programs in. They have a book that they probably, like a notebook that they put in all the scholarships that they've received locally, or maybe a bulletin board. So just go to them and they'll be able to direct you into some scholarships that you can apply for. And also, too, there's federal work-study programs. When you fill out the free application for federal student aid, it's free money, and I say kind of because it is a first-come, first-served basis. So, again, that's why it's important for you to fill out the FAFSA as soon as possible. It provides jobs to students, and you're paid at least minimum wage. Your job can be at the college or related to the student's field of study, but it's not unusual for an oceanography major to work in the school cafeteria or even in the school library. So now we've kind of exhausted all the free money options that are out there. We're going to talk now about the second step in the value-based approach, and that is called the cheap money. And when you fill out the FAFSA, and you do have to fill out the FAFSA to be considered for these particular types of funds, and the first one is the federal Perkins Loan. It's awarded to students with exceptional financial need. The interest is not added to the balance while in school, so basically what that means is you're taking out the federal Perkins Loan, but it's not accumulating every time you get a disbursement on the Perkins Loan. It's not accumulating interest. So that's a really good benefit by using the federal Perkins Loan if you qualify for it. It does have a fixed interest rate of 5%, so that's a pretty cheap interest rate, and there's no origination fee. And basically an origination fee is sometimes institutions will charge you a certain amount, a certain percentage of taking out a loan. In this case, the federal Perkins Loan does not charge you that fee. It is paid back directly to the school because the school administers the program, and the loan term can be paid up to 10 years. And another benefit of the federal Perkins Loan versus any type of other student loan is you get a grace period after you graduate or you depart from the school or fall below a half-time status. You have a grace period of 9 months versus your normal 6 months. So it gives you a little bit longer to get established, get a job, get some income, and then start paying the loan back. And then the other loans that are administered through the Department of Education, and you qualify for these by filling out the FAFSA, is the direct student loans. They used to be called Stafford loans, if that's what you're familiar with. One thing that I have students that come to me and they say, well, I don't qualify for these types of loans. My parents make too much money. Everybody qualifies for a direct student loan. As long as you're a U.S. citizen and you're not in default of any other student loans, you qualify for a direct student loan. And anybody qualifies, and we kind of have a little tagline that we use here that even if Oprah went back to school, she would qualify for a student loan. She could get a direct student loan through the Department of Education. Now there's two types. There's subsidized and unsubsidized. Subsidized is based on need. And there's no interest while in school, kind of like the federal Perkins Loan. It doesn't accumulate interest, so you're not responsible for that while you're in school. The interest rate's 4.66%. It does have an origination fee of a little bit over 1%. And then the unsubsidized, this is the type that Oprah would get because it's not based on need. Students are responsible for interest, so it's accumulating interest. You can defer it while you're in school, but it's still accumulating interest while you take out a disbursement off of a direct student loan. Interest rate's the same, and then the origination rate or the origination fee is the same. And then the repayment terms is 6 months after a student drops below either half-time status or graduates. There's no prepayment penalty, so if you want to pay on these loans while you or your student is in college, you can and you're not penalized. And then there is a standard principal and interest payment up to 10 years, and there's usually a minimum of a $50 automatic monthly payment. For the first 2 to 4 years, you can do what is called a graduated repayment. You pay interest only, and then it's followed up by your normal principal and interest payments. It can be income sensitive, so it can be based on your gross income. And then if the student does accumulate a balance of over $30,000 on direct student loans, then you can pay it back over a 25-year period versus your normal 10-year period. And then this is just a sample of an award letter, and I want to tell you that all award letters look a little bit different. Sometimes you'll get them mailed to you. Other times, if you have an account at that particular college, then they get put into the student's account and you can view them electronically. But this is just an example of what it would look like. And like I said, usually you start getting them late April into May. And the cost of attendance for the University of Success would be $20,138. And when I talk about cost of attendance, this is not just tuition. This is everything that goes into the cost of your student going to college this particular school year. It includes tuition, it includes books, it includes room and board, meal tickets, anything that's going to cost your student to go to college. And then the expected family contribution based on the federal methodology of a family of 4. They have an incoming dependent freshman. They make $60,000 annual income, have $10,000 in savings, and there's no additional real estate. Based on that methodology that the U.S. government comes up with, this family is expected to pay a little less than $7,000, $6,828 for this particular school year. And then on the next page, it's going to show us the different awards that your student received. There's the federal Pell Grant, $1,000. The federal subsidized or the direct loan, which is $3,500. That's the subsidized. That's the one that's based on need. And then the unsubsidized, your student received $2,000. And because your student's an incoming freshman, the total amount that they can receive their freshman year is $5,500. Of course, that's going to change, and it's going to go up every year after their freshman year. There's also a state scholarship grant, $1,500. An institutional grant, $7,500, and then a federal work-study program. So you or your student's going to work this year. They receive $2,000. So the total award is $17,500, and if we subtract that from the cost of attendance that we looked at before, the unmet need is $2,638. So now this is the amount of money your student needs that's left over after all the free money, after all the cheap money. This is the unmet need. And I know that was a lot of information to give you today because, again, the financial aid process is not the easiest process. But there is help available to you. Of course, we are more than glad to assist you here at DCCU with your questions about financial aid. In the area, sometimes there are what is called a Super Saturday. They have been held in the past at different colleges where the Virginia Association of Student Financial Aid Advisors come in and help families fill out the FAFSA. There's also the counseling department. I referred to them earlier at the school. They're just a wealth of knowledge, and they have a lot of resources, scholarships, information on area scholarships that the students can apply for. There's also your career coaches. They're there to help you. And also GRASP advisors. And they have been strategically placed in the school system to help students understand filling out the FAFSA as well as finding different types of scholarships that are available. This is the end of the information that I have for you today. I do have my information, my email address. If you go through the presentation again and you just have a question, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is slandrum@mydccu.com. We want you to feel as comfortable as you possibly can filling out the FAFSA and just understanding, how to pay for a college education at the value-based approach. And that first step is, finding the free money and then using the cheap money. I want to thank you for joining us today, and have a great weekend. Thank you.